Hi, I'm Panda Hershey with Your Full Expression. Welcome to the May 4th Coffee and Charts call, where we discuss how the next 2 weeks show us our growth opportunities for the whole year. At the same time, we'll get a sense of how well we're positioned to make the most of those opportunities and whether there might be some changes that are needed to feel seen and heard this year. I see the next 2 weeks as two distinct stories, and on this call, I explain that. As always, we watch the movement of the planets, and I point out some key dates to pay attention to, as well as the start of the Mercury retrograde on May 10th. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Good morning, and I think I'm pretty much going to jump right in because there's a lot to say. There's so much going on. I'm sure you guys can feel it. And what I'm hoping to do is weave everything together into a story as we go along so that you can see how things play and interact together. Because I think it gets very, the way we talk about it, everything is kind of this is happening and then this is happening. But in fact, everything's happening all together and it weaves and it's not all independent. All of our lives have to come together into this one body that we are. So, okay. So just to recap, I was just saying before everyone jumped on that this is a time where our little tiny reprieve of just wrapping up all the stuff that we have been doing before Pluto stationed retrograde is kind of over. And now the floodgates are kind of here and we are, I want to say swept. It feels like we're being swept up in a tidal wave in some ways that, and the way I see it showing up in the world is all the unionization efforts, all of the, Chinese population being swept up kind of one city after another. I didn't realize that nearly 375 million people in China are in some form of lockdown. And that's not including Beijing, which with this COVID outbreak could be locked down. And so all these people are getting swept up into this same space of understanding what other people are going through. And with sanctions going on in Europe and Ukraine unable to harvest its crops, we're all going to be in and participating and be touched by what is going on over there with our doing nothing, right? Just by living our lives. And that is the magic of Neptune, that there's nothing that we can do to stop it. And we can't push the wave ourselves, but we all have to flow with it together and help each other to get through. And that's kind of where we're at. And so we're going to look at the next 2 weeks. I kind of see it as being divided into 2 phases, and we're going to talk about that and integrate everything that I think I see and feel as we talk about it. So I'm going to start about 3 days ago when Venus, over here in pink, it's just hiding behind the Jupiter in blue, entered the Jupiter portal at 29 degrees. And then we catch up to today where the Jupiter portal opens. By the way, happy May the 4th be with you. Star Wars Day, just in case you're a fan. And at the same time, the sun is crossing over Uranus. So the sun is in yellow underneath that orange of Uranus. And by tomorrow, it's in that portal of shifting something that we're doing with our body and how we show up. And so we've got Venus in the Jupiter portal, Sun in the Uranus portal. And Uranus portal opens on the 7th. And then on the 9th, Venus leaves the Jupiter portal, the Sun leaves the Uranus portal. And the next day, Mercury stations retrograde. And all of those things will interplay, and we'll talk about that when we get to the journal questions. And then things start to shift because Venus enters the Chiron portal. Here's Chiron, which is already, the portal opened back in March. And remember, Chiron is that energy of Saturn and Uranus combined, of things kind of set up and organized, but then Uranus come and breaking it all apart. I often refer to it as a snafu. And snafus can be pleasant surprises and annoyances. And so Venus in Aries, bringing that energy towards you, being the attention on you in some unexpected way. That, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. And then Mars, here in red, enters the Neptune portal. So those two energies are going at the same time. Venus crosses Chiron, and Venus leaves the Chiron portal on the 16th. I think that's late in the day. Mars crosses Neptune. Mars leaves the Neptune portal. And that gets us to when we meet again in 2 weeks. So there are two pretty distinct phases there that I wanted to point out. And all that time, Mercury is retrograding, slowing down, and then retrograding. So as we look again, I think almost the most interesting thing to pay attention to is that Mercury moving forward. Here's Mercury moving forward up to, it's at 1.5 degrees now. It's going to get to 5, and then it's going to move backwards. So here we go. Okay. All right. So I hope everyone got to see that. And if you want to see the Mercury grade in its full portal, there's a video that I sent out. I'll try to put a link to that in the email that goes out. When I sent the reminder late Monday about today's meeting, I mentioned that it's still okay if you have the energy, if you have the time to think about how much you've done this year, how you've used your tools and your wisdom, to take note of that. And also, if you have any thoughts on, if you already made some notes and just go back and look at it, think about what needs reinforcement, because that is what we get to do for the next 5 months. It's kind of reinforce or add to it, build on that in some way. Think about all the things you've accomplished. How could it be better? What tools might you need to kind of practice or work on in order for that to come forward in the whole Pluto moving forward allows you to start applying those tools again in a deeper and more substantial and, I don't want to say authentic, but in a deeper way for you, because you'll have evolved. So just a couple notes, couple keywords for yourself is all you need. And I should have said that there. Okay, so Jupiter portal. We've got two things going on here. As you can see, we've got Venus in this portal from May 1st to the 9th, and the portal opening today. Now, Jupiter is right now still in Pisces, and that transition from Pisces here to Aries is about being in touch with the feelings of the people around you. And from that experience saying, this is what I care about. You're feeling inspired, you feel ignited, and that is Aries. So the key question right now is, who am I feeling around me, and and from that, who can then hear what I have to say? And as you continue through this portal from last Sunday until the 9th, look at who's paying attention to you, who hears you, And that is a sign of where your growth is going to be this year. So it's less about one-to-one relationships and more about community. And so, some of the examples I've thought about are, Starbucks and Amazon workers feeling each other and being tired of it and saying, okay, we've got to get together and do something. And, the leaked SCOTUS opinion the other day is motivating people to pay attention to laws and elections and do something. So it's that kind of thing. Volodymyr Zelensky is finally getting the Western support he's looking for. And my hope is that because it's all coming together during this portal, that there will be success with all these things that bring people together. Eventually, that is what we're here for, is connection. And so the things that divide us, or activities or intentions that try to sever connections, I believe in the long run will not be sustainable. So we'll see how this happens. So in the questions here, what I wrote for Venus is how it relates to March. And if there's no connection, or if you didn't make a note, don't worry about it. The question here is more, what group of people is understanding me, or am I feeling connected to? Who wants to hear what I have to say? Who is receiving what I have to say, or is noticing me? And with that portal opening here, just additional questions. Who do I feel a potential for growth with? How am I surrounding myself with people who get me, or have the potential to understand me? And remember that this is a 9-month transit. So the growth doesn't have to happen overnight, but it will be, into the next year. And if you're noticing here, I had to correct the dates for the Mars dates. So at the same time, as we saw, the sun is moving through this Uranus portal. So here we've got sun going in tomorrow, coming out the 9th, and Uranus opening on the 7th. And this Uranus energy of shifting what you do with your body, that's Taurus, like what you're physically doing, where you're showing up, who you're showing up with, all those kinds of things are coming together with that Venus of being heard. So if you think about, oh, this crowd is hearing me, or I feel compelled to be with them because I have something to say and they're hearing me, maybe if you've not been with the right people, you've got to shift what you're doing with your body and who you're showing up with to align with that growth. And this doesn't, again, happen overnight, but it is something to consider, and how you can make that change to be lined up to really take advantage of all that growth that's coming for you. So I've added a few questions that go along with the questions that are already in the booklet. And Taurus is not only our physical body, but it's also your resources. So it's your money, it's all the tools you have, it's all the knowledge or things that you have on your own. So I'm just trying to figure one more thing here. Okay, one more. The Mercury retrograde. So Mercury stationed right at the end of that. And this Mercury retrograde portal right here is from Taurus to Gemini. We had a great workshop. A number of you were there. Thanks so much for coming. But it was about being deeply present so that you would have some ideas. And this thinking, of course, relates to all that's been going on with the Venus and also the Uranus, right? What have you been doing? Who is hearing me? And from that, what do I have to say? So the Mercury retrograde begins just at the point where you've had these experiences, and you get to contemplate all of this for about, almost 3 weeks. as you think, okay, well, here's who's hearing me. Here's where I showed up. Was I showing up in the right place? Is my mind inspired? What needs to change, or what conversations need to happen so that I can make the shift to be in the right spot? And one thing I wanted to point out, because just visually, with all the retrograde portals, this is on page 4 of your guide. Here is this Mercury retrograde right now, nestled between the Uranus portal, and right afterwards, this ends at 5 degrees. The Mars in Gemini retrograde is at 8. So it's like coming up really quickly in terms of, the space between. So from this Mercury retrograde, you'll be thinking about, oh, well, if I follow these threads of thoughts and ideas that I have from this time, I can see myself getting excited or very frustrated from the fall into the winter. And this is the time to be thinking about where you're going to put yourself, that Taurus energy. Where am I going to put my body? Where am I going to show up? Who am I going to show up with, so that I am excited and feel empowered to, stand up for my words and my ideas in the fall and the winter. So I hope that bigger picture makes sense of how all those energies weave together. And that's a lot to pack into a week. So the second phase of the next 2 weeks is Mars moving through the Neptune portal. And Mars is taking a stand for something. It is defending something. It's putting your heart into it. It's feeling pretty passionate. And when you combine it with Pisces, it is, I think, going to be a lot of people joining together to fight for something that they all care about. And I think it's a time for caution, frankly, when you're out in the world, because it can be the energy of the crowd and feeling swept up by that together. And so an additional question is, how is the energy of the crowd enfolding me into that passion and pulling me along? Okay, so it's, Mars can have a less intentional energy and a more just go for it without thinking it through. And this is a time when you actually want to think through where you put your heart. Because at the same time, we saw Venus receiving Aries attention, being noticed, and Chiron unexpected. So I'm just going to throw out a quick example just off the top of my head. If you were at a protest, for example, and that would be Mars and Pisces, right? Everyone getting together and being really like going for something and having a message that they want everyone to hear. The Venus in Aries, Chiron is like, oh, I got tossed into jail for a night. Like that would be the unexpected, unintended attention that you might get. So combining those two things together is just something I want people to be very aware of during that second week of the next 2 weeks. I hope that all makes sense. So again, another Venus question here. How might I be receiving some unexpected attention? So survival tips. Pay attention to who hears you and notices you. The personal planets are all about things showing up right there for you to experience in the moment. And that's Venus, and going through Aries with the Jupiter energy of potential and growth. This is the time to pay attention to who is doing that and where it feels good, where you're excited to be. Ask yourself if you are showing up in the right places and with the right people. That's the sun going through that Taurus, Uranus and Taurus portal. Like, do these two things sync up? In that story that I told about the college student, this may be the time where they visit a college and say, oh God, they visit a couple that they got accepted into, and one where they thought they were going to be really excited to be, they get there and it just doesn't feel right. And the other one that maybe was, near the bottom of their list, they enjoy the crowd, the people that they meet there. They like the feel of the place. And then they end up having to think about shifting what they were going to do. So it's just something to pay attention to. And if you're in the right track, that's really awesome. And then from May 12th to the 16th, where that second half of Venus being in the Chiron portal and Mars being in the Neptune portal with Pisces, just be aware of the energy of the crowds when you're out in the world. Be aware of, where you put yourself in social media, that kind of thing, and just be mindful as best you can. And as always, take care of yourself. So that's that. I'm going to be offering 2 more Mercury retrograde workshops. Both of the ones that I had went so well. I had such a great time, and I feel like everyone walked away with at least one question to help them focus the energy of that portal on one thing for themselves. And I thought it just went great. I would love to try to figure out how to do this on Zoom. And if anyone has ideas, because it is interactive, would love to talk about that. But it does last 60 minutes. And if you guys know anyone who might be interested, let me know or send them my way. And so anyone else, any comments, any questions? I hope weaving those stories together was helpful and made some sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you feel better prepared to move through these next 2 weeks and are already starting to feel some of the expansion possibilities for you this year. From May 12th to May 16th, please be aware of the crowds around you. Feelings may be running quite high during this time, and it's possible you could be in a situation that doesn't turn out quite the way you expected. If you've ever wanted to understand how the Mercury retrograde affects you personally, consider attending one of my in-person workshops being held this Saturday, May 7th, or next Sunday, May 15th. In just 1 hour, you'll have a clear perspective on where to focus your thoughts during this portal. Check out the link in the description below to learn more. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.